This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com, more of our podcasts at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts, and you can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. So I'm your host, the aforementioned Matt Hurt, and I'm here with another special edition of the podcast. It is currently, this is new for the podcast, but it is 4 a.m. on March 25th, 2020. And we're embarking upon day 7 of the first and, dear God, hopefully last ever COVID-19 film festival sponsored by ObsessiveViewer.com. I'm recording this about 3 hours before I have to work. I'm working from home. I'm very fortunate in that my company is deemed an essential business and allows me to work from home, so I am able to still have an income during all of this craziness. So, yeah, the COVID-19 Film Festival. The COVID-19 Film Festival is basically me chronicling all the movies I watch while working from home and quarantining myself during this whole pandemic. I'm presenting these podcast episodes as if I were covering a film festival. I'm going to have special days that are programmed by other hosts, and they may Skype in to record as well, as is the case in this episode. So I released the last episode, the first episode of this series of episodes, last week, after my first day of working from home. I think time is a construct now. I worked in the office Thursday and Friday, and then I worked in the office yesterday, so Tuesday, because there's some processing that has to be done in the office that can't be avoided. So I just want to kind of bring us back into it. That's why I haven't had the chance to talk about the weekend programming of COVID-19 Film Festival. Over the weekend, I watched a bunch of stuff on Amazon Prime, so I'm deeming that Prime Weekend, and I'll get to that in a bit. So, yeah, so that's what this episode is going to be about. It's going to be about Prime Weekend, even though I've had like a couple days after that. So, anyway, just to run down some stats first before I go into the news of what's going on, just for posterity's sake, really. I intended to record this Sunday night on March 22nd, but I just got overwhelmed. I didn't really feel, not really overwhelmed. I can't use that excuse because, everything that's going on. Although I was kind of overwhelmed. I was more like I was, overwhelmed with choices of what to do, and what I could do and everything and how to spend my time. It's been crazy. So, I intended to record this on March 22nd, and what I'm doing with these, and this, I don't know if this is detrimental to, the state of the world or anything, but just to kind of chronicle like where we're at least here in Indiana where I reside, where we're at in terms of the coronavirus. As of March 22nd, we were at 201 positive cases of coronavirus, 6 deaths, and 1,494 total tested. So was March 22nd. Then, a day later, as of March 23rd, this stat is going to be updated, here in about 6 hours. So from this recording, but as of right now, March 25th, at 4 a.m., total positive cases in Indiana is 365. Total deaths are 12. And total tested is 2,931. Interesting that one of the cases that I just read about yesterday was a Speedway firefighter was tested positive for coronavirus. Speedway is the town I'm from, where Tiny lives, where I live, where Fecus polices, where Kirsten visits sometimes when she comes over to record, and where Ben went to school, where he met Tiny. So a Speedway firefighter was tested positive. They have a handful of firefighters in quarantine now. Just kind of crazy and kind of close. So that's crazy. The governor of Indiana did issue a stay-at-home order that went into effect about 4 hours ago. No. What is today? Today's Wednesday. Yeah, so 4 hours ago. Basically, that's just you have to stay home except for leaving for just essential things. So you can go to the grocery store, like groceries, pharmacies, all those are still open and everything. But it's just limiting the amount of time that you spend outdoors. And for me, I do have to go into work once a week. So I'm hoping that it's going to be every Tuesday now, because Thursday was a freaking mess. But what's interesting is that that is kind of nice to have that break in the monotony, to actually go in, leave the apartment and go into work for a few hours or 8 hours, depending on how long it takes me to do those processes, because I can go home afterwards and work from home the rest of the day. But man, it's like a ghost town at work. It's crazy. Since this is just unprecedented, just because the majority of employees at my company are now working from home. And when I go into the office, it is legitimately like a ghost town. There's whereas there were hundreds of people in the building, on the floor now, there's maybe 4 or 5 people working, and just a sea of empty desks. It's insane. And I do get to kind of close myself off in a focus room and just, be kind of quarantined myself. So while it's nice to get out and go to work and everything, it's not like I'm going to work and socializing with a bunch of people and potentially getting infected or infecting people with this virus. It's like I am just as isolated there as I am here. So it's kind of interesting. That's where I'm at right now, basically, in this whole quarantine thing. I have some news items I kind of want to run through just for posterity's sake, like I said. These are kind of outdated now, so this one is from I think March 19th. Wow. Evangeline Lilly. Holy crap. Evangeline Lilly from Lost and Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp and Avengers Endgame. She, the headline is, Evangeline Lilly refuses to self-quarantine over coronavirus. Fans call stance dangerous. So basically she went on Instagram and talked and posted a picture of her kids or something and saying oh, just drop them off at gymnastics. They're smiling. They're happy. And so people were like, shouldn't you be, kind of quarantining and everything? And she's like, no, we're not gonna quarantine or anything. She said that, she implied that she thought it was a political thing. She said oh, well, it's all, there's always something, around in an election year. It's okay, that's sure, whatever. But the kicker of that, the thing that really kind of aggravates me on that front, is that she said that she lives with she has 2 kids, and her father lives with her, and he's in his 80s, and he has stage 4 leukemia. I mean, why would you not want to keep, yourself healthy if you're in a household with someone that is elderly and sick? I don't understand that at all. That is putting way too much risk on someone who is presumably going through a lot, obviously. So yeah, so that was really weird. I love Lost, and I don't know, I like Evangeline Lilly's acting and everything, but holy shit, she seems like an idiot. So not to get political, we say that all the time, but I mean, honestly, this next news piece is just more like, just holy shit. Vanity Fair, Trump, basically, I don't have the headline in front of me, but basically, Trump was in a press conference, had a press conference where NBC's Peter Alexander lobbed him a softball question and asked him, like, hey, what do you say to people that are afraid right now? Like, what message of comfort do you have for the American public and everything? And he's like, I think that's a nasty question, and I think that I think that you're a nasty reporter and everything. It's like, you literally had one chance. Like, this was a fucking, like, a softball. Like, all you had to say was something comforting and everything, or something like presidential, but no, you can't because you're a fucking idiot. Sorry. So anyway, it's to the point where I can't stand the administration, him, anything. It's ridiculous. And on that note, the kind of, this is old news now because hopefully people aren't this stupid, but he referred to it as the Chinese virus, and idiots that are following him did that too. I actually lost a Facebook friend because he shared a post that said the Spanish flu has been called the Spanish flu for 107 years. Why is it suddenly racist to call the China virus China virus? And so, like, I had responded and said, like, well, the Spanish flu was called the Spanish flu because in World War I, Spain was neutral and was able to, and their papers weren't censored, so they were able to report authentic, like, stats and information about the flu. That's how it got its nickname. It wasn't originated in Spain. And at the time, and the idea of calling COVID-19 or the coronavirus the Chinese virus puts a stigma on it that causes moron racists to attach an enemy to, like, what they're going through. So there is, harassment against Asian Americans, not even just Chinese Americans, just Asian Americans, because, again, racism is fucking ridiculous. And it's like, I've seen, like, tweets and stuff about how, like, there was one tweet about this woman who was taking her trash out, and then she passed by a guy and he scoffed at her or something, and said, like, yeah, like, basically confronted her and made her feel very unsafe because she's an Asian American. And in his stupid small dick brain, I don't know what small dick brain is a thing. Anyway, he just attached an enemy to this whole thing, and that's not constructive. Anyway, so I posted that on, I commented on this guy I went to high school with, his post about it, and then while I was typing that out, someone else on his friends list had said basically the same thing, and then he had said, his response to that was, watch out, the Facebook police are here because they're experts. And, like, I was like, you literally shared a post where you shared a post that literally asks why it's racist to call it the Chinese virus, and you're getting upset when people are telling you why it's racist to call it the Chinese virus. And then he deleted the thread because, of course, anyone that's fucking posting stupid shit like that and get called out on it are cowards. And then deleted me from his friends list. So, I don't think he's a listener, but if he is, fuck you, unsubscribe. So, next up, the new to get into actual movie and TV stuff, if you guys are still listening, the new Michael Showalter directed movie starring Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae, The Lovebirds, will head straight to Netflix. It was announced a few days ago, or maybe late last week, I think. Yeah, there's no release date or anything. There have been so many postponements and changes and everything that this is a very small, I can't really say for certain, I can't keep up with it, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So, yeah, that's the most recent one that's on my list. So, that's gonna hit, The Lovebirds is gonna hit Netflix at some point. Maybe we'll do a review of it. It'll be fun. So, next up there was an article from David Ehrlich at IndieWire about movie theaters and how their value, how they still have value and will have value after this crisis is over. So I'll put a link in the show notes. Check that out just to give a shout out to that article. A couple other things. The Walking Dead spinoff, The Walking Dead World Beyond, has been pushed by AMC because of coronavirus-related production shutdowns. So, like this show, and then also the flagship Walking Dead show, The Walking Dead, it was announced that their season 10 finale, will not air until their episode that will air on April 15th will be their last episode until this crisis is over and everything. Which I think that is supposed to be like the penultimate episode, so the actual finale won't air until later in the year as a special episode. And that's specifically because all the shutdowns and everything are causing post-production houses to just shut down, and like they're not able to actually do like post-production on stuff that's been filmed and shot and everything. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. Finally, and this is kind of this is interesting. So Harvey Weinstein, who is currently in prison, by the way, we didn't really talk about it on the podcast, but he was convicted of rape and sexual assault and some other charges, I think, and sentenced to 23 years in prison. And he, while in prison, has tested positive for coronavirus. So I saw a really great tweet. I think it was from Brian Lynch. He said, in other news, coronavirus hired a PR team this weekend. Because Harvey Weinstein is a fucking monster. So that's what's going on recently and everything. Yeah, so I'll have more next time, I think. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into the actual film festival stuff. So COVID-19 Film Festival, as I said, it's my way of coping with the fact that we are stuck indoors for the foreseeable future and everything is on fire. So COVID-19 Film Festival is basically me just talking about the movies that I watch while working from home and in quarantine and everything. And over the past weekend, they were days 4 and 5 of my self-isolation and everything. I did go out once to get, medicine and, a Brita filter. So that's actually really good. But for the most part, I stayed indoors the whole time. Realistically, not really that different from my usual routine. Although that's not true. So, like, I live alone, which first of all, this whole thing, I am so happy that I live alone because cabin fever. And I'm so like, my heart goes out to those of you who have kids during this whole thing. Cause first of all, it's scary, obviously. But second of all, like, just having to entertain kids, like, with no break or anything, like, that has to be just insanely stressful and everything. So I'm really thankful that I don't have any kids and that I live alone. Yeah. So, yeah. And also cannot be more thankful that even though I don't really understand why my company is deemed an essential business, although I kind of understand it, but not really, I'm very thankful that I have, a paycheck. Like I'm able to earn an income during all of this. So, yeah. Anyway, COVID-19 Film Festival. So days 4 and 5 were over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I decided to make the weekend, Prime Video weekend where I had planned to watch like 4 movies on Amazon Prime, but then I got kind of caught up watching, Watchmen on HBO, which you'll hear me talk to Tiny about later in this episode. But I ended up only watching 3 movies on Amazon Prime Video. By the way, shout out to Heartland Film Festival, heartlandfilm.org. They're doing, quarantine, recommendations and stuff. So they've been doing, they had a blog post that recommended a bunch of movies from Criterion Channel, and they just recently posted one that has a bunch of recommendations from Amazon Prime. So check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes of this episode, of course. So anyway, I ended up watching 3 movies on Amazon Prime, and then, so I'm gonna run down those 3 movies, and then we'll get to the spotlight, review, which is me and Tiny talking about HBO's Watchmen season 1, which I think is the only season that it will ever have. So, here we go. So first up, the first movie I watched on Prime Video was Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
All right, you motherfuckers. I know you in there. Come out right now. Drop the motherfucking clamps.
This son of a bitch doesn't have a dick.
He's got a fucking dick. He just got it tucked in.
Identify yourselves, motherfuckers!
I'm Jay, and this is my hetero life mate, Silent Bob.
So, of course, I'll do non-spoilers for all of these. So, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. This was a tough one. It's such an interesting place that it put me in because I've enjoyed Kevin Smith's work in the past. Like in the late 90s, early 2000s, really early 2000s, I think, when I hit high school. I loved Kevin Smith's aesthetic, his kind of slacker energy, and very kind of slacker wisecracking stuff. Like, I am one of maybe a handful of, like, I'm among the legion of cult followers for Mallrats. I really enjoyed that movie. And I liked Clerks a lot, and Chasing Amy I still think is one of the best romantic comedies or romantic dramas I've seen. Granted, I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah. Other movies like Dogma and Tusk weren't really to my liking that much, but for the most part, I have really enjoyed Kevin Smith's work. As far as the View Askew universe, his kind of interconnected thing, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when it came out in 2001, was a movie that I kind of was mixed on. Like, I liked it when I was a kid, but as I grow older, I just kind of, it's just kind of too silly and too silly, really. But I enjoyed the, kind of the satirization of Hollywood and everything. Like, the whole, like, James Van Der Beek and Jason Biggs' cameos in it are astounding. Like, they're fantastic. I love the section that's Good Will Hunting 2, hunting season. That is one of the funniest things, in Kevin Smith's entire oeuvre. So that's 2001. So in 2019, he released Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and I haven't kept my ear to the ground too much on Kevin Smith's career or anything. He filmed this after he had his heart attack. And as far as later Kevin Smith movies, like Red State, I think is phenomenal. It took me a couple of viewings to really appreciate. Tusk, I thought, was just kind of squandered an opportunity. I thought it's interesting that it's like the first movie that's inspired by a podcast. But I took a lot of issue with the representation of podcasters in the movie, which is, I mean, it's a stupid hill to die on for me, but it was just like, okay, it's just shock jock radio. Like, that's in calling it podcast. And it just didn't feel like it was, I didn't feel represented, guys. So, also I just felt like it was just weird. I did really like Michael Parks' performance in it though. So that's something, but I mean, he did a much better job in Red State, in my opinion. Never saw Yoga Hosers because I literally had zero interest in seeing it, especially after Tusk. Like, like, that killed any interest I had in this True North trilogy thing that he's doing, or was doing. I don't know if he's still planning on that. So, all that's to say that Jay and Silent Bob Reboot kind of came out completely under the radar for me. I don't remember if it had, like, a wide release. I feel like it didn't. I think that there was, like, a Fathom Events thing or something, because I remember being at the movie theater one time for, I don't remember what movie I was seeing, but I remember seeing, like, the one of the auditoriums in the theater had Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and I was like, oh, okay, that is a thing, and it's out now. So, I sat down and watched it, Saturday morning, I think. I I didn't like it. There was nothing in it for me, really. It's pretty terrible. Like, I think that on one hand, I think that I've outgrown Kevin Smith's kind of brand of stoner comedy stuff, which I was never really into that much, but I kind of felt like it was at least clever in those early movies. Here, it's just kind of sad, to be honest. And maybe that's because the culture that we're in, like it was novel in the late 90s and early 2000s to have like a stoner duo, like going on stoner-esque adventures and stuff. Like that, maybe it was novel at the time because it was maybe a little bit like, morally ambiguous, I would say, in the culture. But now that, you know, weed is pretty much legal all over the country and it has been destigmatized and everything, I just kind of feel like, okay, there's nothing in this for me. It's like watching a couple of functioning alcoholics stumble into an adventure, into a weekly written adventure, honestly. And like, it does nothing for me. So, yeah, so that was kind of where I came at it at the outset. Wow. One of the bigger issues I have with it, though, is that it aims to satirize reboots and remakes and the reboot culture that we're in. And it does a pretty decent job of illustrating its point, or I wouldn't even say illustrating its point, but what I'll say is telling us directly. And when I mean directly, when I say directly, I mean like looking directly into the camera and breaking the fourth wall, which is something that I thought was charming in like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but here it is too much, and it's too much like pleading for a reaction. And I was just like, you're just rehashing old stuff and calling attention to how Hollywood rehashes old stuff while you rehash old stuff. Like, don't nod to the camera like it's something clever. It's literally copy and paste. Which is what was kind of infuriating to me in a few scenes, because it is literally like there's a scene that is just absolutely the exact same scene from Strike Back, which is intentional, but it's also like it's not funny to me. It's the exact same thing that he did 18 years ago, which sure, it's the point, but it comes across as incredibly too lazy and like too much fan service. Like, when we talk about fan service as a pejorative toward like movies and stuff, it is, when I say that, I mean it as like nostalgia has its place. Like, you can create art that is nostalgic for the past, but when it veers into just playing to the cheap seats. Wow. I sound like Trump. To the cheap seats. Just playing to the cheap seats and just paying homage to what you did before that your viewers are fans of, like that. There's nothing new to that. Like, it's weird. I don't like it. I don't know. It just seems just kind of lame to me. I'll read a little blurb from Letterboxd that I wrote, because I'm losing steam. So, it would be interesting to look at Reboot from the perspective of comparing modern pop culture to the state of comic book movies and general nerddom in 2001. But Smith doesn't care to comment on how pop culture has changed, and has wholly embraced comic book culture in the 18 years since Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And that's something that, there's a little bit of commentary there about that, but it's just such a far cry. Like, the world, the culture, pop culture has changed so much since Clerks 2, with the kind of Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars kind of debate and everything. It's changed so much. And what Jay and Silent Bob Reboot feels like it's aiming to do or trying to do is it's trying to reclaim that sentiment from 18 years ago that is, for all intents and purposes, dead now in 2019. And it's like, this could have been a more interesting movie if it tackled more modern pop culture isms, like even internet culture, like social media, fan service, fandom, toxic fandom and everything, which is something that he touched on in Clerks 2 with, like I said, with the Star Wars and Lord of the Rings thing. Again, it's 4:30 a.m. But he just doesn't care to do that here, and that's a bummer. I will say that his daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, she's really good as Millie in it. And she has this arc with Jay Muse that is actually pretty endearing. Frankly, it belonged in a better movie. And I really enjoyed to a point, I enjoyed Ben Affleck's appearance as Holden McNeil, like the kind of fan service, I'll say it, to Chasing Amy. I enjoyed that whole section. It was pretty good, but it also just felt like I have no allegiance to these characters anymore. Like I just don't. It just feels like it just felt lifeless to me. Like it wasn't engaging to me because I've grown as a person and as a viewer of movies. And I don't know if that's snobby or what, or if it's a fault of Kevin Smith for not making an engaging movie to reel me back in, but it felt just dry and not funny. So that's Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I rated it 1 star on Letterboxd, and I completely forgot to read the plot summary from IMDb, so I guess I won't do that this episode. So anyway, that's Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It is available to stream on Amazon Prime, so if you want to watch it while you're quarantined, and tell me how wrong I am, please do.
What I mainly felt watching the film, and I felt it all the way through, was, why didn't we do this? We would have had such a big hit.
Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie.
What if aliens thought that William Shatner was real?
A lot of Galaxy Quest is the truth about Star Trek.
It really does feel like a Trek movie because it has all the hallmarks of what makes a Trek movie work, which is never give up, never surrender. Like, you can overcome sort of any problem.
Patrick saw it and was blown away by it, and what did he say? I love this film.
Okay, so next up is Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary. It was from 2019, and plot summary, courtesy of IMDb. Filmmakers and stars discuss the filming and social effects of Galaxy Quest, a comedic takeoff of Star Trek with brilliant commentary not only on the Star Trek series, but on the real-life actors themselves. So Galaxy Quest is a movie that I really appreciate. I saw it pretty late. Like, it's not something that I watched when it came out, I think in 2000. But I watched it within the last, probably 4 or 5 years for the first time. And I've watched it a couple times since. It's a really charming, really fun movie that is not the, family style, comedy, goofy comedy that it was marketed as in the early 2000s. It actually has a lot more to it, and it's a lot of fun, especially if you watched Star Trek, the original series specifically, and if you have any experience with just fan conventions, like nerd culture conventions and stuff. It's a really interesting movie, and entertaining, and has a surprising amount of heart. Also, the cast is incredible. Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, oh my God, why do I always blank on his name? Sam Rockwell, Justin Long, Rainn Wilson has a small role in it. For the Lost Point fans of the podcast, Flashpoint's Enrico, I can't remember his last name. He is in it as well. It's just a really good, fun, heartfelt comedy. It's really good. So Never Surrender is a documentary about the movie. And what I appreciate about this documentary is that it does start out by kind of going into depth about the Star Trek-ness of it and how Star Trek influenced it and how it is basically the best Star Trek movie, or one of the better Star Trek movies and everything, despite not being a Star Trek movie, of course. So it goes into that, and it talks a little bit about Star Trek's legacy and everything. And I'll admit, I kind of started to lose a little bit of interest early on, because I kind of wanted more about like the making and insight into Galaxy Quest, which is fortunate because immediately after that, like that section, it goes into depth about the making of Galaxy Quest, the trials and tribulations that came up. They talk about how Harold Ramis was attached to direct and how that kind of fell apart a little bit. And they talked about getting Tim Allen on board, and I do want to say, so they have a lot of interviews with the cast and the crew and everything. And the director of the movie, I'm blanking on his name now, but he kind of comes across as kind of a little gruff, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's the polite way to say it, but it's funny because it's like there's like no nonsense or anything. Like, he's very candid about it, and he just kind of seems like he I don't know, maybe I don't know. I don't want to put too much into it, but it just seems like he just comes from a place of just kind of being a little disgruntled about things, not necessarily about the movie itself or making Galaxy Quest, but it just seems like he was just kind of a little rough around the edges kind of guy, and kind of director, which is kind of contrast by the interviews and how it's like, oh, we were making a really fun movie and it was a lot of fun. So I don't know, but I got the impression that he didn't really have a lot to say about the movie, or he didn't really care as much about the movie as the rest of the people that were interviewed for the documentary were. So yeah, I mean, it's a really well put together documentary. It's charming. It will make you realize just how much you love Galaxy Quest if you even have a modicum of enjoyment of the movie. Like, it'll maybe give you a new appreciation for it. It doesn't play up any dramatic things. Like that's something I appreciate in these types of documentaries. It's just celebrating it more than anything. It's celebrating it, and it's celebrating it with factual, like, accounts of the making of it and everything, and the appeal that it has to its fan base and everything. And I appreciate that as a celebratory kind of documentary. It's a solid effort in that case. It does get a little heartfelt with talking about Alan Rickman, who of course has passed away before the documentary was made. It does get a little heartfelt, but it doesn't get too, like, wrapped up in like eulogizing him or anything. Like, it just feels very sincere, like the things that they say about him and about how they felt about his work and his passing. So I appreciated that. I will say that there's at least 2 points in the documentary where they talk about Alan Rickman, like, clearly not, I don't know if I would say not gelling with the rest of the cast, but especially like I want to stop short of saying his animosity toward Tim Allen, but just his disdain for Tim Allen, I guess. They talk a lot about that. And it's very charming, just the way that they talk about it, because they talk about it in reverence to his talent, to Alan Rickman's talent and everything, and him being on, like, just another level in terms of acting from the rest of the cast. But there's a couple of times in the documentary where people, like, stop, like, they stop themselves from talking, and they say, like, okay, I don't think Alan would mind if I said this. And then they kind of tell an anecdote about a time, like something that Alan Rickman said on set that could be construed as him being a dick. And I really I was very charmed by that. And the anecdotes were really good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So it goes into the production of the movie, and it's like all that is really interesting to me, and I gained a lot of insight into the movie from that. Then kind of the last part of the documentary is how it affects its fan base, like how there is a cult following for Galaxy Quest. People dress up in cosplay, they go to screenings and everything. They kind of play it up like it is like a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing, or The Room, which I don't think it's necessarily like that. Like, it's obviously it's not like a hokey, like, hate watch kind of thing like The Room. It's obviously it's a well-made movie and everything. It's just talking about just the fandom surrounding it and the how much it gives to the fans in terms of giving them a voice and making them feel heard and making them feel noticed and everything, and just finding, commonality between the story and the fan base. And I really thought that was a really kind of heartfelt moment for the movie. It kind of felt a little bit tacked on. It's kind of a framing device for it. Like, we start out the documentary by being introduced to these fans who dress up in cosplay and are kind of obsessed with Galaxy Quest. And it's charming. It's very much heartwarming and everything. And then by the end, they kind of come back to that and they, kind of follow up with that thread for the documentary. It feels a little bit rough, just in terms of structure for the documentary, but it's fine nonetheless. Like, it's a well done documentary. I rated it 3 stars on Letterboxd. It is available on Amazon Prime, as I said, so check that out. It's Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary, and it was released in 2019, I believe. So my third and final movie for COVID-19 Film Festival Days 4 and 5 Amazon Prime weekend is 2018's Thunder Road.
Honey, I'm really not going to be good at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You want me to leave the light on in the hallway for you?
It's fine.
All right. I'm going to bed, honey. Good night. I love you.
Plot description courtesy of IMDb. A police officer faces a personal meltdown following a divorce and the death of his mother. So this movie was written, directed, stars Jim Cummings, who gives what I think is one of the best performances I've seen in quite a long time in this movie. And I'm really sad or upset with myself that I missed out on seeing this at Heartland Film Festival in 2018. And I heard it got rave reviews and everything, coming out of the festival circuit and everything. And so I finally got a chance to watch it, and good God, it's incredible. It's really good. So, for those who don't know, Thunder Road began its life in 2016. There was a short film that Jim Cummings made, that was Thunder Road. It was a 12, I believe the short film was also this, but a 12-minute single take where the character is eulogizing his mom at the funeral. And that's how this movie opens up. It is it's about a 10 to 12 minute long single take, and the range of emotions that Jim Cummings goes through in this scene, and the way that he just introduces us to the character, introduces us to the nuances of the character, the emotional crisis of the character, and the grief that he's feeling, the just raw grief that he's feeling, is absolutely remarkable. Like, it is phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough about this opening scene of the movie. It just draws us into it, and it's got tinges of like dark comedy and kind of it's weird, but it is so informing of the character. Like, it is just brilliant characterization. It's just really incredible. Like, little nuances there where, like, throughout it, he's apologizing to someone off screen, and like, he is very wrapped up in like the emotional crisis that he's feeling. It's really incredible. And that's our introduction to the movie. And it just reels you in so fast and so hard. And it's remarkable. I absolutely love this opening scene. And the rest of the movie follows that brilliantly, in my opinion. Again, just the nuance of the character and this crisis that he's going through. It is so well realized that I'm like, I wrote on Letterboxd and I'm nearly at a loss for words. So this is kind of like the the pull quote from my Letterboxd review. This is a movie that lives in a state of chaotic empathy and brings you into its world in such an immersive way that it's almost overwhelming. So the entire movie is this character who is going through a crisis. He is an emotionally, I don't want to say emotionally unstable. He's just a grieving character who is going through this emotional crisis, from several different fronts. And the way that Jim Cummings just lays it all out there is remarkable. It is so incredible to see this performance, the writing, the directing, everything. Like, the directing is phenomenal. Like, even like the cinematography and like the framing of the shots and everything. There's no, like, it's very cohesive. It's very matter of fact. It's very just kind of straightforward without much flair. Like, as far as, like, when I say that, I mean that as, like, there's not anything that's, it's relying on the performances and what's on screen to really tell the story. And it's not doing any quick cuts or flourishes or anything like that 12-minute opening scene, and then there's another long take later in the film. It's slowly zooming in on him, and it's a simple technique, but it informs so much of what the character is doing. And that's like one of the only times where the camera really guides us in telling the story, because it's mostly performance based, and the performances are astounding. Just gobsmacked by this movie. The way that the character goes through and has these bits of rage, these bottled up bits of rage, is so authentic and visceral. Like, it took me back to, like, when I've gone through times in my life where, like, I'm grieving and I'm in an emotional crisis and everything. Like, it's no secret, like, 4 years ago last month, my dad passed away. And during that time, like, my family was in chaos. Like, it was, like, legitimately, like, everything was just in chaos. And just, like, this movie took me back to that, not in a way that felt like I wasn't emotionally overwhelmed by this or wasn't taken back to it, but it was just, I felt like such a connection to the character that Jim Cummings was portraying, that it felt like a bond between viewer and character. It was a really good movie. That's Thunder Road. It's from 2018. I rated it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and the director Jim Cummings actually liked my review on Letterboxd. But yeah, that's Thunder Road. Is available on Amazon Prime. 4 stars, 2018. Yes. Okay, so now it is 4:50. Wow, I have time to kill. Nice. Before work. But I am hungry, so I need to get breakfast. So the spotlight review for this episode is actually pretty special, because a couple nights ago I finished watching the first season of Watchmen on HBO. And knowing that Tiny had previously watched it, I asked him if he would jump on his computer and talk to me over the internet about it. So, Tiny Skyped in. Not necessarily Skyped, Google Hangouts, but, Skype is kind of ubiquitous anyway. So anyway, he Skyped in to talk to me about Watchmen Season 1. And that's been recorded, so I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it to that. We talk a little bit. I don't know how much of that I'm going to have to cut down and edit out, but, we talked a lot about, like, what we're doing in terms of how we're dealing with all of this COVID-19 stuff. And, that was another thing. I saw a stupid freaking post that was like, someone I knew from high school, saying something. I don't remember exactly what her whole post was, but it was basically like downplaying the seriousness of the situation and everything. But she said, like, I don't know if this is a joke or not. I don't know if she was joking, but she said, like, COVID-19, what happened to COVID 1 through 18? Like, that's not what it is. Anyway, so Tiny and I talked about the quarantine and self-isolation and stuff and how we're handling it, how he's handling it. And then we talked about Watchmen Season 1. So I'm going to throw it to that recording. Thank you guys so much for listening, and enjoy this chat with Tiny about Watchmen on HBO, which I know that this is Amazon Prime weekend, but technically I watched it on Amazon Prime because I have HBO as a channel, as an add-on channel, so it technically works. So here's my, it technically comes together there. But here's my chat with Tiny about Watchmen Season 1. All right, so I'm here with Tiny. Tiny, you there?
I'm here.
Good.
Yes, still alive. Yes.
Thank God.
Still alive. Right.
Thank God. How are you holding up?
I'm doing okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm
okay.
kidding.
You're kidding. Okay, good. Wait, is joking a side effect of COVID-19?
Probably. Check the internet.
Shit. I tweeted, I tweeted, I made for dinner Friday night, I think. I had Hot Pockets and chocolate milk.
Nice.
And I tweeted, I'm having Hot Pockets and chocolate milk for dinner. Does anyone know if the side effects or a symptom of COVID-19 is regression to when you're 12 years old?
For real, that's a total college meal.
Yes. It was delicious too. It was really delicious.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've already talked in this episode probably about all of my work stuff. How are you holding up? Like, what's going on over at Casa de Ramian?
Oh, not much. Paige is working from home indefinitely, basically. So she's got a really sweet setup. She's got like a double screen thing going on.
Nice.
In the office. So it's basically just like she's at work. They got her a dock for her laptop and stuff. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, she's like, it's basically just like I didn't even leave. So that's good. And then unfortunately, my job was designated as essential. If you heard us joking earlier. So yeah, I'm pretty much going to keep on heading out into the world and doing work.
Ugh,
so
that is rough. That is very rough. How are you feeling about that?
I feel okay. I actually agree with that designation. Like, I think our job is essential. For those who don't know, I work on fire alarm systems, and if there's an apartment building where people live, that fire system needs to work because people live there and sleep there, or God forbid it's at a hospital or a medical facility. Obviously, we need that stuff to work. So I understand that designation, and I don't disagree with it. But just a little worried about catching that bug. So
yeah, I feel ya. Are you like how are you in terms of fearing the actual virus and everything?
I mean, a little bit because I think I've mentioned it on the podcast. I am a diabetic, and I had asthma growing up. I've kind of like grown out of it, but still, like, I feel like it's not a good thing that I had that growing up. So
right,
that's two things that kind of worry me a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. I was more worried about my parents. They were down in Florida for the whole week.
Yeah, did they make it back?
Yes, I picked them up last night.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, at the airport. So, yeah, they're fine. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, that's good. Did you yell at them or?
I did not.
Okay.
They also said that they're pretty much gonna self quarantine for the next 2 weeks.
Nice.
So,
well, they're both retired.
No, my dad still works.
Oh, okay.
But he loves his job. So
nice. What does he do again?
He works for the Speedway Redevelopment Commission.
That's right.
Yeah, he loves it. It's cool.
Nice.
So he's got the scoop on everything going on in the town.
Very nice.
Yep. So
well, we'll have to start Speedway podcast. No, the Speedway. I don't know. Speedway
Redevelopcast. The Speedway Redevelopcast. That doesn't work. We'll work on it. We'll get there.
We will.
But also, like, all the places I had to go to work at last week were really cool. Like I had to go to a couple schools, and obviously they're just a ghost town right now. So, like, that's good. Even though I have to go out into the world, like most of the places I went to, I wasn't interacting with more than like one or two people. So,
wow.
I mean,
nice.
I think that's probably going to be the norm for a while. So I'm actually not overly worried,
Yeah. I'm back and forth. Like, I'm not necessarily worried that much. What I'm worried about are, like, if I catch it and it gets to the point where I need to actually miss work or anything, like, I have, like, half my PTO left. And, like, I'm thinking, like, you know, maybe under the circumstances they should, like, let us slide on that.
Right.
But my other concern is my mom and my sister, who is due to give birth in, like, 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it sucks for them because they all live together. My mom, my sister, her 2 kids, her unborn kid, and her husband.
Wow.
Yeah. And I won't go into much detail, but my mom, did I tell you? I told you about what was it that I told you about? She wanted to go, like she wanted to go run errands or something, and I was like, "No, Mom, you can't.
Right.
Just stay home. You're 68 years old. You're diabetic. You have respiratory problems." Like,
right.
Stay home. That's all you have to do. So, yeah, but my mom has been stressing me out with stuff and everything. Not necessarily the last couple of days, but I don't know. Did you guys...
think a lot of us millennials are going through that.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people with boomer parents are having the same worries.
Yeah, there was a great, like, meme or something where... something was like everyone needs to get control of their parents. They're out at the supermarket high-fiving and like everything, and I'm just like, yeah, that's fucking accurate. Like,
well, we've had to, like, anytime we go anywhere, we have to, like, for work, we have to call ahead and make sure that, like, we can get in, and like they haven't changed their policy since this morning, you know, or whatever.
Right.
And so, like, I've been talking to all these customers, and for whatever reason, I've been getting sent, like, to the eastern part of the state for whatever reason. Okay. So like Connorsville and Richmond and Newcastle areas like that. And they're not quite as worried about it out there as you know. And so like this one guy, I called him, and I deal with a lot of, like, you know, kind of blue collar, like maintenance guys and stuff like that.
Sure.
And this guy out in Richmond, you know, I called him, and I was like, hey, you know, am I able to get access to your facility tomorrow? And he was like, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, we just had several customers, you know, worried about the virus stuff. He's like, oh no, I ain't worried about that. You ain't got that crony bug, do you?
Oh God.
He had, like, that Hoosier drawl, like,
oh wow,
I'm from the South, but I'm actually from Richmond accent. Right. Yeah, he's like, you ain't got that crony bug, do you? I was like,
God,
no, sir, I don't. So
I don't know, because, you know, people can not show symptoms for like 2 weeks, but you know.
Right. Yeah.
Did you make sure to tell him that he needs to make sure that he washes his hands?
I have heard that word "wash" a few times.
Oh yeah,
wash with an R in it.
But yeah. Oh, and at least, and this would be a good segue. At least he didn't call it the Chinese virus.
Oh God. Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Oh God, the internet. Oh, yeah. People, I hate it so much. I'll probably talk about that earlier in the recording. Oh my God. Yeah. I keep petting pizza. Anyway. So yeah, we're a movie and TV podcast, though.
Hey guys.
Yeah. Oh, good times. Have you guys went out anywhere? Like, are you guys isolating yourselves as well?
Paige is pretty good. She hasn't really, she has not been in a public place in over a week. Yeah, but we've gotten carry out a handful of times, and last night we drove downtown to get a pizza on Mass Ave.
Oh, okay.
And we went through downtown, and it was like, I've never seen downtown that abandoned ever.
It's crazy.
Like, for a Saturday night, I was just blown away. Which it made me hopeful, because you know, there's a lot of people not taking this seriously. But
right.
And you know, I'm worried about like a full shutdown. You know, full quarantine or whatever.
Yeah.
But if people keep doing that, we may not have to do a full shutdown.
Right.
So, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. On Tuesday when I got my laptop, to work remote, I had to go into the office to actually set it up to work remote, and I didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to go into the office Wednesday morning and do it just to go home Wednesday and work during the day. So I went Tuesday night, and the route that I take to work passes by a school with a full, like, you know, soccer field. I almost said court. And passed by it about 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, fully engaged in a full-on soccer game. Spectators, cheerlead, like, everything was normal. And I was like, oh, damn. Neat.
Yeah.
Jeez. But yeah, so let's see what else. Okay. So have you, like, you've had to work your normal shifts and everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That kind of sucks.
It's whatever.
Yeah, and you had to drive all the way to Richmond, which is like on the other side of the state, and you still didn't listen to my episode.
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's fine. But have you watched anything in the time that we've been, you know, incarcerated in our homes?
Social distancing.
Yes.
I did. Yeah, I actually watched. Nice. I watched Contagion.
Oh, no, me too.
I saw that you watched it. Was that your first time watching it?
It was my second time watching it, and if you want to know what I thought of it, check out the last episode.
That's why. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't remember. I saw that like on that you had posted it, but I couldn't remember if it was a written review or an episode.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because I did make it the cover art.
Right.
Yeah. Was this your first time watching Contagion?
No, I actually own it.
Oh, nice.
DVD. I was a huge fan of it when it came out. I thought it was so good, and I think it's just as good now as it was in 2011 or whatever when it came out. Obviously, very prescient.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's funny. The technical consultant for the movie. I can't remember his exact name, but he was basically the guy who eradicated smallpox.
Oh wow.
He's like basically the main person who invented the smallpox vaccine, as far as I know. And so he was very interested in the movie, and like he gave them a lot of their science and was like, you know, if this happens, this is what it's going to be like. And he's been in the news a little bit recently. He was very critical of the United States and more specifically the president's response to the crisis, which I think is warranted, obviously.
Well, be careful. You don't want to get deleted off of Facebook.
For real, yeah.
I hate everything.
I know.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, anyways, he I can't remember exactly what he said, but he had some pretty interesting things to say about what's to come and all that. So yeah, there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah, it's there's a lot out there. How did you feel about, how did Contagion hold up, by the way?
I held up great. I remember I hadn't watched it in years. I have it on DVD, but I hadn't watched it in years, and I remembered a lot of it because it's a very memorable, scary movie, frankly. But it held up great. I still think it's a fantastic movie, despite how relevant it is right now. But it's a great movie, really good. I love the cast. Steven Soderbergh is just a fantastic filmmaker. I'm a big fan of his. So,
me too. I'm growing in my appreciation of his films. Recently he's done a lot of iPhone filming, like the movie Unsane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the movie Unsane has I can't remember who the lead was, but it's about a woman who is being stalked essentially, and it's filmed entirely on an iPhone. And
oh wow,
yeah, it's interesting. It's like an iPhone, like on a rig and everything. It's like they have it's not like he's holding like his phone up and recording it like a World Star video. But it's an interesting technique, and I think he did it recently with another movie. Yeah, anything else you've watched?
Today I watched Fighting with My Family.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which I kind of missed out on. I didn't watch it last year. Really great movie. I loved it. Sort of predictable, and there's a few things that it got away with that I don't think it earned, if that makes sense. But
okay,
the characterization was great. I loved Florence Pugh is just and shooting star, absolutely.
Yes.
Her year last year was amazing, which was mentioned by Mike in our end of year review. She just had an amazing year, and this was part of her trifecta that I hadn't seen yet. So she's phenomenal. I love Nick Frost and Lena Headey too. I thought they were great as the parents, and everybody. It was a really just fun, enjoyable movie.
Nice. You watched that today?
Today, yeah.
That's interesting because isn't it one of the movies that you gave to me to watch?
Is it?
I want to say it is.
I thought I was supposed to watch those.
No.
I must have misunderstood what she said.
Okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. No, the idea was... I'm so sorry. The idea was that I would pick a day where I would watch movies that you guys would suggest to me, and then it would be like that day of like the COVID-19 film festival was programmed by Tiny. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's funny because I gave you a bunch of movies I haven't seen.
I know. Yeah, I'm like, oh wow, when did he see Midway? If you want to change all four of them, like,
oh crap,
by all means.
Okay.
Your day isn't until probably Wednesday.
Dang.
Yeah. I should have been more clear about that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I will have to think about that then.
Okay, right on. Yeah, and hopefully just make them all kind of streamable. So,
right.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, the reason that I've called you to the recording today, Tiny. Yes. I had like the whole day, like the whole weekend planned of being like, oh, I'm just gonna watch stuff on Amazon Prime, and then I'm gonna record an episode that's all about the stuff I watched on Amazon Prime. Okay. And I watched a few movies, but that's gonna be a separate recording for this episode. But I also only watched half the movies I wanted to because I got really wrapped up in watching the first season of Watchmen, which is apparently the only season that it's going to have because they've announced that it's probably not going to come back for season 2.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's a choice from Damon Lindelof. Like it's just not going to happen. Like he told the story he wants to tell, and it's done.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's from what I understand. So, Tiny, I know that you watched it recently-ish in the past couple months, probably?
Yep.
Yeah, so let's talk about Watchmen. Here's a clip from the trailer.
There are people who believe that this world is fair and good. It's all lollipops and rainbows. We don't do lollipops and rainbows. We know those are pretty colors that just hide what the world really is. Black and white.
Soon thou shalt save us, and we will whisper, go.
All right, and we're going to go non-spoiler on Watchmen, HBO's Watchmen. Tiny, first of all, how do you feel about the Watchmen property, the graphic novel and the movie from Zack Snyder?
So the graphic novel, I wasn't really familiar with it, but I remember back in 2009, I remember seeing the trailer for Zack Snyder's movie, and I was just like, holy shit, that looks unbelievably cool. Mm-hmm. And I think as part of the movie, maybe, or like in response to the movie, DC had done like an Ultimate Watchmen compilation of the graphic novel. And it's like I still have it. It's like this really nice hardback edition. It was like $100. I mean, it was super nice. Mm-hmm. And so I got that I think for my birthday or something. And I read through it, thought it was fantastic. I loved all the imagery, really nice artwork, and just a super unique story that I hadn't really seen anybody tell before. So I like the book plenty. It's got so many cool themes in it. And then at the time that the Watchmen movie came out, I was a huge Zack Snyder fan, and it was getting to the point where I was having to defend him, and I was still a heavy defender of Zack Snyder. And I choose at this point, I don't defend him anymore. But I'm still a fan of several of his films, and I still don't think he's a bad filmmaker. I just don't think he's a great writer. Right. And he's got a lot of flaws as a filmmaker. But I still think Watchmen is a great movie. I actually watched it recently because Paige was very interested in the series on HBO. Okay. And I was like, well, you should really watch the movie first because there's going to be so many things that you don't get. And she was like, all right. And so we watched the director's cut, which is like 3 hours long.
Oh yeah. God.
I like kind of felt bad because she was like, God, when is this over? Like she liked it and thought it was cool, but she was like, I thought it was going to be more actiony. I was like, yeah, you and everybody else.
Right.
Because I think that's a lot of people sort of criticize the movie for that. Because it's really not an action, beat 'em up Batman style comic. Or the graphic novel isn't that way. It's a very thematically story driven kind of political type thing. But I still think that movie's fantastic. And the director's cut especially, I think it's really good. It is slow paced and it's a slow burn. It takes a while to get through it, but I still think it's a great movie. There's definitely flaws with it. But I thought all the acting was great. They just nailed all the characters. I thought it was a great way to capture Alan Moore's vision. I thought it was, I still think it's a great movie. So
nice. Yeah. I had rewatched it also recently, before I started the series, because like it's such a unique thing because the series isn't. It isn't like there's such a difference between the graphic novel and the movie, and the series kind of picks one. I would say,
yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing because like throughout the first like few episodes, I was like, okay, which version are we continuing here? But I did rewatch the movie and like, yeah, I have been such a shithead toward Zack Snyder and everything. But I mean, I will say, and I'm, in my opinion, worth it. I don't think he's a good filmmaker. Just flat out, just don't think he has the chops. However, there are two movies that I like from him, and that's Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen. And even though Watchmen doesn't really adhere to, like, I don't want to say that it doesn't adhere to the mythos of the comic or the graphic novel, because I actually remember I read your copy of the graphic novel back when the movie was coming out. I actually like remember that specifically because I was like working at the one building that we worked at where we were only like there was only one guard. So I remember reading it at that building. But anyway, and I was really taken with the graphic novel and everything. I really want to read it again, but the movie satisfied me because it was, like you said, it was very much kind of a good representation of what was on the page. And that's one of the things that Zack Snyder has going for him is that he's good at replicating the comic book feel. Like in terms of just like the frames of a comic book and everything, translating that to film is really a talent that he has. So rewatching it now, like 10 years later, it still holds up. I feel like there was some stuff that just didn't really work for me that much, and I can't really speak to it because I don't really remember how it worked out in the comics or in the graphic novel, but there were some things that didn't really work out. But the thing that stood out to me so much about the movie was the world building and the mythology of it. Like, I was just so taken with like the world of like that alternate history world. It's just so interesting. So I was satisfied with my rewatch of it. So non-spoilers, what did you think of Watchmen? 9 episode season of television on HBO from Damon Lindelof.
Yeah, I thought I have really mixed feelings on it because I thought it was it was just weird. I wish I had more adjectives and more descriptions to describe that, but it was just weird. It felt like a little bit sophomoric, or a little even. It felt like a little bit, I don't know, like some of the costuming and some of the effects seemed a little like college junior doing an art project for his film school. For me, yeah, like it felt kind of crappy in that regards. But the storytelling was just so cool. Like the wife and I were just so we were just so into it, and like we couldn't wait to figure out what was going to happen next and what was going to happen here. I mean, we were really, really into it. There's a lot of kind of jumping around time wise, which is very, very. It gave me a very strong Lost vibe in so many different episodes.
It's very on brand for Damon Lindelof. absolutely. So, yeah. So I mean, that stuff worked, and I thought some of the characters were just kind of strange. Weird is the word I keep coming back to. But it was. I just really love the story. I thought it was so cool, the directions they took everything. I mean, there are some major characters from the graphic novel and the movie that are in this, and it's pretty remarkable to see how they fit in and what they've kind of been doing the whole time. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. There's a lot of cool history stuff in there too, sort of like the graphic novel and the movie. Just the alternative history stuff is always super fascinating. I think that's what works so well for the story. But yeah, and also a great cast. I mean, Tim Blake Nelson is just awesome. Jeremy Irons playing Adrian Veidt is like perfect. Like, I just love that. And Regina King, of course, did a great job. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I was a lot higher on it than you were, I think.
Okay.
I kind of loved it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it was such a unique kind of meld of continuing the story of the original Watchmen graphic novel and contextualizing it to like 2019 at the time, like ideals. Like it takes some interesting. It tells an interesting story about race and race relations, and to a far lesser extent, like police and everything. But like at the forefront, it's race, white nationalism, white supremacy, and everything playing in the Watchmen universe. And what is really fascinating to me is that it doesn't feel pandering. It doesn't feel like it's like trying to be quote unquote woke or anything. It just feels like this is the story that they're setting out to tell. They're telling it within this framework of Watchmen, and it fits so well, I think, in my opinion. And like you said, the kind of characters from the original that kind of resurface, like there are some interesting places that they've taken them to, and and I've got to say, I gotta say, I love that throughout it we get glimpses of the show, kind of making fun of Zack Snyder's movie.
yeah,
with the American Hero story thing.
Right.
Like it's so I got a huge kick out of that. Yeah, but it's one thing that really stood out to me, and this is maybe because not to bring this up again, everyone, but Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. I'll be nice. But J.J. Abrams, like that kind of makes me like that movie kind of put J.J. Abrams into a very specific box with me. Like it's very much like he he has his mystery box. He does his thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to introduce all of these intriguing concepts and everything, and then not worry about paying them off or anything. So that, I feel, is what happened with the Star Wars sequel trilogy and everything. And there's a lot of recursive or like reoccurring things from past things. Like, I love Super 8, but it is very much E.T. It's
right.
Like his love letter to E.T. I like The Force Awakens, but it's A New Hope. Yeah, but anyway, I say all that to say that Damon Lindelof is operating on a different frequency, because what I appreciate so much about the way that he tells stories, and the way that he told this story in Watchmen, is that he sets up these things and then he pays them off. Like, it feels like he puts us into Act 2 of each person's story and then brings us back to Act 1, and then before bringing them into Act 3. And it's just, it's a really interesting way to tell the story, because he still does it with enough intrigue and interest to carry us through that mysterious part. And unlike something like Westworld, where I got so annoyed with Westworld because everyone on the internet was hypothesizing things about it, and I'm just watch it. Watch the story. Like, just pay attention to the story. Like, I hate that about the era of television that we're in now, is like everything has to be... I hate to say this with a negative connotation, but everything has to be Lost. Because I love Lost. Lost is one of my favorite shows of all time, but people that want to get ahead of the writing of the story annoy me, because that's not, in my opinion, that's not that's not an interesting way to consume media. Like, I would rather experience the story than try to guess where the story is going.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But anyway, all that's to say is that Watchmen I didn't have that feel with Watchmen. Watchmen felt like a very well-paced, constructed story from beginning to end, and I really appreciated it for that. So,
yeah, that's fair. It definitely did have that.
Yeah, and did you ever watch The Leftovers? Okay, that's Damon Lindelof's other show on HBO. It ran for 3 seasons, I think. I think with us in isolation for the foreseeable future, I might watch that in its entirety, because I am just so like, okay, I'll say it. I like when I was watching Watchmen, I kept thinking, like, if we started a Lost podcast and then finished Lost, we could alternate between, like, Carlton Cuse' TV shows after Lost and Damon Lindelof's TV shows after Lost, and do that.
Oh my God.
So yeah, this whole quarantining thing is not working out for me. But anyway, yeah, so Watchmen, I really enjoyed it. The resurfacing characters were interesting. The different dynamics at play with those characters and with new characters were really satisfying to me. I really liked Tim Blake Nelson.
His character was really interesting.
Yeah, his character felt like it was supposed to be... Now, I don't want to say it was like Rorschach, but I think more just his costuming was a little Rorschachian. Yeah, but I love... And to your point about the costuming and stuff, like, I kind of feel like maybe that was the intention, because they're not, like, costume designers. like I don't think Tim Blake Nelson's character is like, okay, well, I need to figure out how to make this look cool.
Right.
But I will say that Regina King's Sister Knight costume, super badass. Like,
sure.
Yeah. Right.
I just wasn't into it. I just I could not get into it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Shall we go into spoilers for Watchmen?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, cool. We're going to go into spoilers for Watchmen. That'll end out the episode also. So, feel free, if you don't want to be spoiled, just go ahead and turn it off now and come back after you watch it. It is available on HBO Go and HBO Now, and you can get that as a add-on channel for Amazon Prime. So check that out. And yeah, we're going to go into spoilers for Watchmen. Here's a clip from the trailer.
They were gone, but they were just hibernating. They came for everybody. Oh, please.
Coordinated simultaneous attacks at the homes of Tulsa PD. So the cops hide their faces, and now the bad guys don't know where they live. And who doesn't want a secret identity?
Okay, so Tiny, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I have The Hunt to watch apparently.
Okay.
But how do you feel about the, like, in spoilers? Like, where should we begin?
Oh man, I think what people are probably curious about, if anybody who's familiar with the graphic novel or the movie, is does Dr. Manhattan play into this at all?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was curious if he was going to be in the show. I figured not, because if they go the route that Zack Snyder went, it's a full CGI character. I was like, man, that's going to be, expensive and hard to pull off. And so I was like, he'll probably just be in the background or something, and then maybe make an appearance in the finale or something like that as a cliffhanger type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the way they did it was really cool. I mean, I think it worked out really well. And I think it was like initially when he first kind of showed up in that sort of Vietnam episode where he's having a conversation, having a drink with Regina King's character.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little hokey, but I got over that really quickly, and I was like, I think this makes the most sense, because if they went for just a full CGI character and went with like, what they did in the movie, I think it would have been too copycat-ish. Yeah. Like, they really made the character their own, and I respected that. It was a good choice. And just the way they infused Dr. Manhattan into the story was super cool. How they kind of took his memory away and made him a normal guy. That was such a great idea to do with that character.
Oh, totally.
Like I said, the storytelling and the characterization was just phenomenal. Just so well done. That was like out of this world, but there's just, I really wish I could put my finger on what it was that kept me out of it a little bit.
Interesting.
It's some, I don't know, some sixth sense thing that I can't quite tap into. I don't know.
Well, the thing that I love about that episode in particular, the kind of bar episode where it's basically telling the story of her and Dr. Manhattan / Cal, two things stood out to me. One is it felt so much like the very classic episode of Lost, The Constant.
Yes.
I was floored by that. I was absolutely floored by that. And then also it felt like the episode The Queen from Castle Rock season 1. Which also felt a lot like The Constant. But I don't know, there's just something about that level of storytelling and intricacy in the storytelling of flashing back and forth to different time frames and stuff. Just I don't know, I love it. And it's to the point where it could turn a little gimmicky if people keep doing it. But I just think that it is really effective storytelling.
I agree. It has to be used sparingly. It can't be. You can't have a whole season of that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right.
So yeah, and I love the way that Dr. Manhattan was incorporated into the story. Like you said, I was really kind of floored by that. Pizza. Anyway, but yeah, I don't know where else to go with that.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think I might have spoiled it earlier when I forgot that, like, it was sort of a secret for like the first episode or two that Jeremy Irons' character was Adrian Veidt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Like, I saw right from the beginning, like, even when I saw the promos, I was like, I think that's probably Adrian Veidt. Like, I think that's probably who he's playing.
I think it was pretty much announced.
Was it? Okay.
In casting, like when it was announced, yeah.
Okay. I thought he was great casting for that. But just the idea that they sort of like put him in like a virtual prison almost.
Yes, and
that's just so high concept.
So high concept, and I loved the way it plays with time, because like there's a moment where he's like on trial for trying to escape and everything, and then like they say, like for the last year you've been on trial. I'm like, wait, what? And then like the kind of reveal that like that statue of him in what's her face's Lady True's like office was him just preserved. Like, and everything is happening at different times. I love that type of storytelling.
Yeah, me too.
I was really, really taken with that. And I really liked that kind of throughout his whole arc where he is, not throughout his whole arc, but when it comes time to where he's about to escape and he's about to leave, they play, the score plays Blue Danube. That was used in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I thought that was a nice homage.
Yeah, definitely. And then sort of kind of rounding out the characters from the original story, Laurie Blake, she was like the one character that I wasn't really that on board with.
I
don't know. I thought just her presence was just a little clumsy, I think.
Yeah, it seemed like they didn't really know what to do with her.
Right, right.
Yeah,
she was good.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Smart did a great job and everything. I'm not trying to take anything away from her. And I kind of appreciated her attitude. Like she kind of like wasn't surprised by anything.
Right.
And it's like she's been to Mars, you know, like
yeah.
Nothing's going to really throw her off that much. You know what I'm saying? And so just she was the fact that she was so like kind of nonchalant with a lot of things, and she was just not impressed by anyone. So there were definitely things to enjoy about her character, but I feel like her role and the way she fit into things was a little clumsy. That's all.
I'll agree with you there. And there was like when she goes to Judd's wife and kind of tells her like, oh yeah, he was killed by Regina King's grandfather, and everything. And then like she gets like there's a trap door and everything, and she's held hostage and everything. Like there's a whole episode after that where we don't follow her, like we don't see her or anything. And I'm like, I wouldn't like. I felt like I wouldn't be surprised if they just like didn't do anything with her, if she was just dead or something. Because like there's really nothing to that character, which I did. I feel like I'm torn because on one hand it's like I liked that they did the like that moment where she sees Dr. Manhattan in the thing was cool. Like they didn't need to have anything more than that, but I kind of wish that they had a little more than that.
Right.
Sorry.
One of my other favorite episodes. I don't remember which episode it was or what it was called, but it was the one where basically Regina King's character is going through her grandfather's memories.
Yes.
The visual style of that episode was breathtaking.
Incredible.
Really, the set work, the design, the costuming, the acting, everything was next level. Like that was an award-winning episode.
Beautiful so cool. Episode. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the kind of reveal, like they that Hooded Justice, one of the Minutemen that was in the original comic and everything, is a black guy.
Right.
I love that. I thought that was a really interesting revisit of that character and everything, and I like how it's juxtaposed with like that opening scene in that episode is from American Hero Story, where you see him like beat the shit out of two cops in an interrogation room, and then it goes off like it's like on a screen, and then the camera moves and it goes like the police station or whatever, and you overhear the show within the show say something like, something like I just learned this diabolical plot. This is Hooded Justice's character's voiceover saying like, I just uncovered this horrible plot or something, but all I could think about was how he was cheating on me. Like I love the sly dig at presumably at Zack Snyder. That's like it's just the most surface level, not nuanced thing.
Yeah, that's funny.
I love that so much. But yeah, that was an incredible episode and just really, really satisfying. And just it's an important like cornerstone episode for the season and for the entire story as a whole, because it is obviously connecting Angela with her grandfather and telling this whole like backstory of Hooded Justice and everything. It's just there's so many wheels to it, and it's just so amazing how well all of the plates were spun. Not to mix metaphors or anything.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do kind of wish that there was a little more with Looking Glass.
Right.
Tim Blake Nelson's character.
Mm-hmm.
His episode was really satisfying to me. I really dug it. Especially because that was like the reveal of like, oh, okay, we are in the timeline or the version of the story that the squid killed 3 million people in New York.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, how did you feel about all that?
I thought it was I honestly thought it was like better than Alan Moore did it, frankly, because I feel like that was the one thing that took me out of the graphic novel is I thought the squid monster was just too hokey.
Yeah.
I'm sort of doing a bit of a disservice to the entire vision of Watchmen in general, because I think me complaining about the hokiness to the costumes in the series is not really fair, because that's kind of a staple of the whole series. And Alan Moore's original vision is that these superheroes look like idiots. They look ridiculous.
Right.
Like look at Patrick Wilson as Night Owl in the movie. He looks dumb. I mean, that's a stupid costume.
Yeah.
Just really over the top. And some of the original Minutemen, there's like a guy who looks like a butterfly or a wasp or something. They look ridiculous, and it's kind of part of the mythos, I guess, of the Alan Moore's original vision.
Yeah.
And so I think I sort of didn't really take that into account, or it just, for whatever reason, it didn't transfer for me with Damon Lindelof and his vision on this show. I don't know, but but Tim Blake Nelson as Wade Tillman / the Looking Glass was a really cool character. I feel like the Squid Monster was so much better in this series, and I think it's because I don't remember if it's in the graphic novel or not, but it's mentioned in the show that the monster had a psychological effect to it, and that was actually what's more ruinous is the long-term psychological effect that the monster had on people. It killed 3 million people, but it also has this psychology to it that's still affecting the world, 20, 30, however many years later. And that was so much more interesting and added such a whole other level to that crisis and that event, that attack. It made it so much more unique and so much better. And it was through the lens, part of the pun, of Looking Glass. Without that character and without his experience, we wouldn't have that connection to that event. And that's what they absolutely hit out of the park with Looking Glass is bringing that event kind of back into the story. Because, I think a lot of fans of the franchise are sort of, even if they didn't like Zack Snyder's movie, that's what's most recent in their minds, unless they read the graphic novel all the time. But that's that property's kind of taken over my mind as the defining piece of art in my world for the Watchmen, even though the graphic novel should do that. Right. And obviously they didn't have the squid monster in Zack Snyder's movie, and I was a fan of that. I like what they did. But the series did it even better. I think this is the best representation of the original attack and the original way that the world was saved from itself. I think this series did it better than even Alan Moore did.
Totally agree. And I like that psychic thing. psychic trauma that people experience from it is such an interesting element that I don't think was in it may have been in the graphic novel. Like, it may have been, like, I don't know. But the lasting effect of it, seeing that play out through Tim Blake Nelson's character, is really interesting. And I love the scene where he and the woman who ends up being in the 7th Cavalry are at the bar, and they're talking, and like little pieces like this where she talks about how like her favorite movie is Pale Horse by Steven Spielberg, and how it's about it's about the aftermath of the squid attack, and how it's all in black and white, but there's one little girl that's in color, and she's in a red dress, and I'm just like, holy shit, this movie just reimagined Schindler's List for this massive like attack and everything. I'm like, I was kind of just, I don't know, something about that, just like that kind of alternate history thing just kind of really hit me in a really interesting spot.
It's very clever. Very clever.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What did you think of the 7th Cavalry storyline, I guess?
It was a pretty interesting sort of, villainous terrorist organization. The loose connection to Rorschach was sort of, I don't know if it wasn't earned, or if it was just sort of, it was a way to shoehorn Rorschach into this series. Totally agree. That it served no real purpose as far as I could tell. It looked cool.
Yeah.
That's about it. It was optics.
Yep. I wish that it would have done more with that. Like tied it more into Rorschach's journal and everything. But yeah.
Right. But yeah, the cavalry, 7th Cavalry itself, I feel like it was sort of in the background a lot. I don't know. I kind of need to watch the series again to really take it all back in, but because I was just so focused on Regina King's character and how that was going to play out and all that.
I thought you were going to say the costuming.
No, and Dr. Manhattan and all that. I was just so taken by that I sort of lost the main conflict, if you will.
Well, and that's fair, because like kind of about halfway through the season, the 7th Cavalry kind of doesn't go away, but it gets eclipsed by the Senator being the big bad of it, and then Lady True being a bigger bad of it. So I totally get that. There was something I was going to ask about. Oh, also just Robert Redford as president. I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was funny.
But there was, I forgot. It was something about the 7th Cavalry, the villains and everything, the Rorschach. Nope. But yeah, I don't know. The state of the world in Watchmen, the series, was really intriguing to me. I'll say that. Oh, that's what okay. I talked myself into where I was at before. Okay, let me say this. When it was airing, I saw a lot of Twitter feedback and a lot of tweets about it, and I just kind of turned a blind eye to it. But I remembered one tweet saying something like, "Oh my God, it's a time paradox." And in my head, I thought, "Oh shit, this show is going to reconcile the book or the graphic novel with the movie, and it's going to be like alternate timelines and stuff." That wasn't the case at all.
No.
Not at all. And I hate the internet for putting that in my head, or I hate my mind for extrapolating that. What that was referring to was the moment in the episode with Dr. Manhattan and Angela where she's talking to him after waking him up, and he's standing in the pool, and he's saying I'm talking to your grandfather now at the same simultaneously. And so she's like, ask him why he killed Judd, and how he knew that he was a white supremacist and that he had a Klan costume in his closet. And then the reaction from the grandfather, Louis Gossett Jr., was, "Who's Judd?" And I lost my shit because I love that, because she says like, wait, did I just cause all of this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like that type of storytelling, obviously I'm a huge fan of. I kind of wish they didn't hit it so hard as far as like, because like there's like a few lines where she's like, did I cause all this? Is this like it kind of seemed like a little bit over explaining, but I love that, and I love that it's not touched on at all. It's just like that's a thing that happened and that's possible. I don't know, I dug that a lot. Yeah. The big finale and everything, and also the just kind of action in general throughout it. Like you said, it's not really an action story so much, but like that episode where she's fighting the cavalry as they're trying to take Dr. Manhattan, I thought it was just effective action set pieces and stuff. And there's an assault on like a barn or something in like the first episode that I thought was really cool, like gunfight and stuff. Yeah. What did you think of that? And also the police and everything?
That I feel like the action is meted out in different, it's sparse, but it's quality. Like you said, like there's not a lot of it, but when they actually do it, it's really great and it's well done. I feel like that's how the movie is too. The kind of big finale, I was a fan of it. And what happened, I was very intrigued and kind of blown away. But I know one of our co-hosts and friend of the show, Robert Feckus, was very, very critical of the ending, and he sort of made this this comparison. He was like, "Look, Dr. Manhattan is basically God and can do almost anything, and he easily defeats the smartest man in the world in the first movie, and." Builds a perfect clock or whatever he does on Mars. Yeah. But in the series, he gets duped by a bunch of hillbillies in masks with watch batteries, and they kill him. And I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of a good point. I think there's a little more to it than that, but when I think about it in that context, it is a little silly. I don't know that it takes anything away from the series or makes me rethink how I feel about it, but I thought that was a solid criticism, that he's kind of duped or captured or defeated somewhat easily, I guess. It wasn't dissatisfying. I thought it was great, but I think just thinking about it in that context was kind of a little surprising, I guess. I don't know if you I'm curious what you thought about it.
Yeah, I liked it. I did, and I was trying to find. Did Feckus post to something about that?
Yeah, he posted that on like Facebook like a while ago. I don't know when. Yeah,
probably back in November when everyone else watched the show.
Right.
I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it. But anyway, he is overpowered as a character. He's God. He's a god. I kind of liked. I liked, in theory, the idea of him being captured like that, just because it felt like just an inevitability. Like, from the beginning, like he said, like, it's going to end in tragedy, like, our story is going to end in tragedy and everything. I kept thinking that, what if it's just the tragedy was that she gets killed and and there's no way to prevent it, which I thought would be intriguing, but I don't know. I thought it was fine. I didn't have any real problems with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, not really good discussion for me.
No, that's all right.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did kind of like that Adrian Veidt sort of, as a character, sort of redeems himself. I mean, that's what's so great about his character and what he did in the book and the movie, is that it's sort of ambiguous. Like, he murdered millions of people, but he prevented the death of billions, and it's like, do the means justify the ends? And that's something that you can teach a whole freaking college course on that if you wanted to, right? It's something that you could discuss ad nauseum. But I think at the very least you could say that it's a gray area what he did at the very least. And in this series, he kind of saves the day. He's kind of more cut and dry heroic in this at the end, anyways, of this series, and that was just sort of unexpected, I guess. Again, just good characterization from Damon Lindelof. Just great choices.
I agree, and Jeremy Irons was just an amazing.
Yeah, loved him. Yeah,
and yeah, I agree. I even though it kind of just. I don't know. I like that he saved the day, and I like that he saved the day essentially the same way that he saved the day last time.
Right.
Sort of, to a smaller extent. But I thought that was a clever way to incorporate this weird thing that they had of the baby squids raining down and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. I liked it. I love the scene where they're working on that, and like it's Adrian Veidt and Laurie, like they're catching up for a moment. Looking Glass is just like, what the fuck? But I just love that it's just like, wait, you work for the FBI? And she's like, yeah, I'm the top like vigilante hunters or something. It's like like just the like banter between them was really good.
Right.
But yeah, but kind of to close out things, there's something at the end of this season, the show, that is something that it's bothered me when movies and shows do this, but we get the kind of Inception ending of her about to walk on water, and then it cuts before, so we don't know. Mm-hmm. Really good storytelling in terms of the egg, like she's consuming the egg, and that's going to be give him her powers, or give her him she's going to be Dr. Manhattan again. But I don't like that it just ends like that. I don't know. I'm good with ambiguous endings, but I feel like that's just, I don't know. It just kind of feels just whatever.
Well, if it were in the context of another season coming up,
yeah,
I would have loved it, because that question would have been answered, or it wouldn't have been ambiguous next season. We would have known, but apparently that's not going to happen. So
right,
I still don't mind it. I still think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know, but I just really liked the show.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you're a fan of the franchise and the property. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that you will revisit it at any point?
Possibly. I don't know. If I was actually going to be home from work, if I was actually quarantined, I might find time to watch a lot of stuff. But who knows?
Yep. Oh, well, that's rough. I'm going to have plenty of time at home, so maybe I'll watch it a few more times.
Okay.
I'm not going to watch it a few more times. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking for news and everything. Basically, Damon Lindelof says that there are no current plans for season 2 of Watchmen. But then 2 weeks ago, so a headline from a month ago was Watchmen season 2. Damon Lindelof says no current plans, but doesn't want to close the door. And then 2 weeks ago, he says he has no ideas for season 2. So yeah, I don't know. I'm good with one and done, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, me too. I think, I don't know how long I want to live in that world, frankly.
Right. Yeah. Will you watch The Leftovers?
I will wait and see what you say about it.
Okay. Nice. All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it, because I'm gonna watch TV, I think. Okay. Any closing thoughts, Tiny? Any closing COVID-19 thoughts?
Oh God. Yeah, stay safe, everybody. Social distance.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's all I can really say.
Exactly. And by the way, did you see The Daily Show is doing, like, Trevor Noah? Do you follow The Daily Show at all anymore?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Well, Trevor Noah is doing, like, basically just doing the episodes at home. And it's really...
Nice.
Huh?
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. And apparently, like, those are going to actually, like, they were just on YouTube, but they're going to air on Comedy Central.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's so weird because it like I watched like a couple of them from this previous week, and it's so weird because like the only time I remember, I don't watch The Daily Show regularly. I'll watch videos as they post it on social media, but it's so weird because it's like they revamped the intro and they rebrand it as the Daily Social Distancing Show. But yeah, it's really funny. Like they had one segment where he did a video chat with one of the correspondents, I guess, one of the younger correspondents. And like it eventually gets to the point where the correspondent's like, I'm just really worried about you, Trevor. Like you're old and I just want to make sure that you're taking your medicine and stuff. And Trevor Noah's like, no, I'm like almost the same age as you. I'm a millennial. It's really good. But yeah, but what's interesting is like the only other time I've ever seen The Daily Show rebrand itself like that temporarily was when the writer's strike happened and they did a Daily Show with Jon Stewart where they didn't have the writers or anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Just interesting time.
Definitely.
So, yeah. All right, well, I think that'll about do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like Tiny said, stay safe and everything. Any parting thoughts, Tiny?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the COVID-19 Film Festival.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace out. Well. Okay, I am now recording. Whew. Wow.
Sweet.
Nice. So, what's up?
Not much. Just surviving the apocalypse.
Good. That's every time someone says, or every time I am interacting with someone or want to interact with someone, I want them to say like, "Oh, how's it going?" or "How are you?" And then I want to say like, "Oh, surviving." Like
nice.
Shaun of the Dead.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interstitial recording that I'm going to just put into that solo thing that I'm doing.
Could you with your $10 words? Interstitial.
Interstitial. Yes.
I don't even know what that means.
It's an old wooden ship, I think. I don't fucking know. But yeah, so, hang on. I'm going to make it. There we go. I'm going to take a picture
okay.
of the fucking screen because
I gotta see it. I'm very curious.
It's so fucking.
Damn it!
It's like so intense. It's fucking awesome.
I can't wait to see this. Oh my god! That's like a serial killer. Jesus.
Oh. It's so perfect though. It's so perfect.
It's still frozen like that?
Yeah, it's still just frozen like that.
Son of a bitch.
So did I tell you that I got a new laptop?
You did? Is that what you're using right now?
I am, yes.
Sweetness.
So at any point you can get your laptop back.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Save to OneDrive. No thanks. Okay.
What'd you get? Like what kind of computer and stuff?
It's a Dell. I basically went to Best Buy and was like, hey, I need to start working from home. Here's my budget. Give me a computer. And they were just like, okay, well, this one's good for this and this one's good for that. And then they're like, one thing that people notice about this one is that it has the number keypad on the right side.
I love that, yes.
Yeah, and I was like, yep, sold, getting it. So, yeah.
They were like, my love to your new lover. Because it's Adele.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm calling you from the other side of the town. Cause,
well, hello.
Because, yeah.
From the other side.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha, yeah. Oh, that's what you're calling. It's hello from the other side. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... so basically this, did you listen to the episode that I recorded that was just by myself?
No, when did you post that?
Like 2 days ago.
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, I don't I've gotten some good feedback on it, so it's good. Okay. And everything. It feels super goofy and stuff because I'm all like, hey, I'm gonna. Sorry, I'm taking another picture.
Great.
Like that is going to be the cover image for this episode of the podcast.
Fuck, please don't.
It's too perfect. I'll
People
just
already think I'm creepy enough.
I'll just put it into like the show notes and stuff. So it won't be the actual cover image, but it'll be in the show notes.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Okay, awesome.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!